guys. It's Burn It Down with Kim Brown. We do this Tuesdays, Fridays, 7 p.m. YouTube, we're on Twitch too. What's up, Twitch? BIDWKB on Twitch. Sometimes we're on Facebook. BIDWKB on Facebook. And of course, Twitter is behaving like a ho-ho at Burn It Down KB. We will not be streaming on Twitter until Elon Musk gets his head out of his ass. And who knows when that will be? Possibly never. So shout out to our folks who ever watched us on Twitter. See you when I get there in that gangster lane. So, we just had conversations about, what's going on with the election. And if we don't vote for Kamala, what are we going to do? If you don't vote for Kamala, who you going to vote for? Trump. So Trump and them can enact Project 2025 and drive us straight to fascism. Ah. Hearing a lot of that already. But I have to say, you guys, it's interesting the ways and the issues in which Democrats and Republicans really, really sync up with one another. I mean, it's almost like the Kid and Play kick step. It's like, wow. like y'all don't miss a step. Y'all don't miss a fucking beat. When y'all ready to start putting some shit down on the folks, y'all will come together in bipartisan fashion and oppress us jointly. Funny how that happens. So you guys are aware earlier this year, really just not that long ago, but the Supreme Court made a ruling siding with the town in Oregon, basically making outside unhoused encampments, people who sleep outside because they are unhoused, because they literally have nowhere else to go, so they sleep outside. That is now criminalized activity. And people who do sleep outside in towns and municipalities that do not allow for that can now be cited and arrested officially, right? A lot of that was happening anyway, depending on where you were. But now the Supreme Court has made it the law of the land, right? So this was a decision mostly ruled upon by the conservative justices of the court, the overwhelming majority of the court. Conservative. You guys heard me. I said conservative, right? Well, funny thing. So we all know who Gavin Newsom is, right? The governor of California, the would-be potential vice presidential nominee, but that's not happening for a myriad of reasons. Gavin Newsom also co-host of a podcast alongside of former NFLer Marshawn Lynch and NBA star Draymond Green. Yeah, Gavin Newsom's kind of everywhere. And Gavin Newsom this week, everybody, passed an executive order basically clearing the way for cities and towns in California to start removing their houseless encampments, right? And yes, they can start, these cities and municipalities can begin citing these unhoused residents, and they can also arrest them, right? I want us to take a real quick listen to the Epoch Times, which did a pretty succinct package. And it's really stunning when you think about it, what a Democratic governor and what the ACLU of California called called it cruel tactic for Gavin Newsom to basically unleash the power of the state and criminalize poverty and criminalize unhousedness. In the same way that the conservative Supreme Court just did. Isn't that amazing? Look at the bipartisanship, everybody. God bless America. Anyway, let's take a listen to the Epoch Times break it down for us quickly.
California Governor Gavin Newsom issued an executive order Thursday to direct state agencies on how to remove homeless encampments. This comes a month after a Supreme Court ruling allowed cities to enforce bans on sleeping outside in public spaces.
Today, we've invested now over $1 billion in encampment resolution grants, not only to clean up sites like this, but to address the underlying issue in the first place.
Newsom's order is aimed at the thousands of tents and makeshift shelters across the state that line freeways, clutter shopping center parking lots, and fill city parks. While Newsom cannot order local authorities to act, his administration can apply pressure by withholding money for counties and cities. Earlier this summer, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to enforce bans on sleeping outside in public spaces. The case was the most significant on the issue to come before the High Court in decades. It comes as cities across the country have wrestled with the issue of how to deal with a rising number of people without a permanent place to live and public frustration over related health and safety issues. California is home to roughly 1/3 of the nation's population of homeless people. Newsom touted that his administration has spent roughly $24 million aimed at cleaning up streets and housing people, but acknowledged the stubbornness of the issue. Newsom's administration has also come under fire recently after a state audit found that the state didn't consistently track whether the huge outlay of public money actually improved the situation. Under Newsom's direction, state agencies, including state parks and Department of Transportation, would be required to prioritize clearing encampments that pose safety risks, such as those camping along waterways. Officials should give advance notice to vacate, connect homeless people to local services, and help store belongings for at least 60 days. Local cities and counties are urged to adopt similar protocols.
So those were the terms of Gavin Newsom's executive order that he signed the last week of July. And it is kind of interesting, some of the numbers that was set out in that package. The reporter said $24 billion has been spent to help clean up unhoused encampments. And this has all been spent, I believe, by the Newsom administration by itself. And yet the lack of accountability to find out, number one, where all the money went, but number two, was it even helpful, right? This is what Democrats do. So they are quick to really throw money at the problem, but really do very lax accountability. Or what they do is they toss the money to the nonprofit sector, in which we know that overhead is where most nonprofit grant money and that kind of or government funding tends to go to nonprofits overhead. Most of the time, the work that they claim to do doesn't really reach or do much to help the populations that they say that they intend to assist. Um, Part of the problem when it comes to housing, not only in this country, by the way, wait, hold on. Speaking about bipartisanship, Ron DeSantis also proposed a similar law. Florida, did that actually pass? Where DeSantis wanted, instead of people being criminalized for sleeping out in the open in public spaces, which, by the way, he does want to criminalize it, but he wants to shuttle everyone to tent cities, I suppose, and have everybody who lives in a tent live there. And I'm like, oh, kids too? Like, oh, we just said everyone in the fucking tent. Is this America's housing solution to over 500,000 people that have been counted as being unhoused? 500,000 people, I'm sorry, I think the number is over 600,000, maybe closer to 700,000. And again, that's just the people counted, right? Sometimes the number of unhoused population in America doesn't account for people that either sleep in their cars or who couch surf, rather, go from friend's couch to friend's couch. A lot of times those people are not counted in the unhoused population. So whereas we're at a stated number of over 600,000, the number is probably much higher than that. And it's interesting to see these Democrats and these Republicans come together on these kinds of issues when it comes to actually doing something that will benefit the least of those in our society. It's a lot of hemming and hawing. It's a lot of, well, we try to throw money at it. We spent a bunch of money, but now that didn't work. So now we're just going to criminalize people, incite them, and clear these encampments. But we're going to do it humanely, okay? Here's part of the problem. Before people become unhoused is when they need to be reached, right? Definitely reach the people that are currently on the streets. But how do we stop the numbers of people currently living on the streets from continuing to grow? Well, we have to reach out and help the people that are on the precipice of eviction. Okay. We have a housing crisis in this country. We have an eviction crisis in this country. We have a housing cost, a cost of living crisis going on in this country. And when you look at the rising rates of rents everywhere, everybody, even in places, where we expect high rents, such as New York, LA, Chicago, Miami. One of our fire fan members communicated to us that down there in North Carolina, the rents is about to start rocking out of control. Our folks in the Midwest, St. Louis, Iowa, the places, down south, Atlanta, the rent crisis, it's a fucking problem. Rents have not kept up with wages, or rather, the amount of rent is our wording working people and poor people. It's insanity. But hold on, I want us to go back to California for a second, because again, there's a number of organizations that are doing what they can to help the unhoused populations in that state. And one of them is a group of young folks, young organizers called the Debt Collective. And I believe that they are housing justice advocates. But the clip that we're about to take a look at, the sister talks in depth about trying to make sure that we're helping people before they get evicted, or we are trying to make the state pass some way better policies, to try to help help keep people in their homes before they end up on the streets, and then before the LAPD or LASD come and throw all their shit away and make them start all over from zero. So anyway, let's listen to the Debt Collective on evictions.
Newsom just ordered the removal of homeless encampments throughout California, and this should deeply disturb you because he's using an authority granted to him by a right-wing leaning Supreme Court. Criminalizing homelessness does nothing to solve the housing crisis. Instead, it disappears people, disproportionately and overwhelmingly veterans, Black and brown folks, LGBTQ plus people, women and children. The list goes on and on. Obviously, we can't always rely on politicians to do the right thing, and we have to organize. That's why I'm part of the Debt Collective, the nation's first union of debtors, and we work in solidarity with tenant unions. In fact, we recently released a takeover issue within these. I learned so much from this article, The Future of Housing Organizing Tenant Unions, because one of the ways that we fight the housing crisis is the point of eviction. Eviction exacerbates poverty. We can learn a lot from LATSU, the LA Tenant Union, because 15% of people in LA live below the poverty line. What does that mean? That means that we have more in common with people that are homeless than we do with billionaires. There's too much to unpack in this article for 1 minute, but if you want to know more, comment below. If you're in Cali, use the Tenant Power Toolkit, tenantpowertoolkit.org.
tenantpowertoolkit.org. And what a word was spoken there, because it applies to all of us. Every single person watching this right now and who will watch it, whether or not you agree or not, we have more in common with unhoused people than we do with billionaires, right? How many of us are one paycheck, two paychecks, a fucking review of your benefits? How many of us are one of those things happening away from ourselves being unhoused, ourselves now couch surfing, ourselves now sleeping in our vehicles? The Democrats continue to stand with the elites. They are not looking out for the so-called little people. They are not looking out for working class people. They are not looking out for poor people. Okay. I also want you to consider, in California, we had some praise for Cali earlier this year because they raised the minimum hourly wage for fast food workers, I believe, to $20 an hour, right? But you guys, how many folks would be working even those kinds of jobs full time and still not be able to afford the rent? I was looking at videos of person on the street interviews from up and down California, all the way from San Diego, La Jolla to LA to the Bay, and people were giving their rents. Some of the people I thought was lying because you had the standard 1,800 for a studio apartment in San Fran. Somebody in LA said they was paying $4,000 a month in their rent. I'm like, liars. But I keep forgetting everybody's not broke. Like, yes, I know I only know broke people. I know that. So when I hear about people that have money and shit, I'd be like, nah, you motherfuckers is lying. Ain't nobody pay no $4,000 for rent. But they do. Just nobody I know. It's staggering. But So Gavin Newsom, Ron DeSantis, the current iteration of the Supreme Court, and possibly even Kamala, all are in support of making sure that our cities and our streets are clean and safe. All of this talk about public safety. Listen, people being unhoused is unsafe and dangerous for women and children, especially also for people that are LGBTQ, especially. Those are the populations that are at most risk of becoming unhoused, and those whose lives are at most danger when they are housing insecure. But here's my question, everybody. If there's billions of dollars being spent on the issue, why didn't the issue get better? I I I don't think it's a coincidence that in California in particular, they had $24 billion, Democrats did, to address the issue of unhousedness. I don't believe that they made a mass purchase of homes, right? Single family units or multi-family dwellings, townhouse developments or apartment complexes. Like, I'm not aware that the state made any major purchases of those types of properties to help put the unhoused folks in. But you know what did happen around the same time? The rise of the private equity, the venture capitalist funds that are sucking up single family housing and multifamily units around the country and placing them into private landlords' hands. Corporations like the one helmed by Jared Kushner and others, where they are slumlords basically in cities all across this country, but they are owning all of the properties. Why is it that the private money was allowed to buy up all these properties that regular people perhaps may have otherwise been living in, but the state didn't bother to buy any of these properties? Like, why not? We have an issue here. We have a problem. And if there are over 600,000 people living unhoused in this country, with 180,000 of them living in California alone, that doesn't tell me that 180,000 people have failed at life out here. That tells me that the state has failed. That tells me that the state is outright refusing to meet the needs of its people, despite it having the ample resources to do so. This is intentional. And the timing of Gavin Newsom's executive order basically imploring cities and counties in California to do something about the unhoused encampments comes right as the Paris Olympics kicks off. And I know you guys are like, Kim, what does Paris have to do? Oh, some of y'all are sharp in here, but y'all know. So we're having the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, France. Where's the 2028 Summer Olympics going to be, everybody? Los Angeles, California. That is correct. Gavin Newsom is giving authorities the green light 4 years in advance. Get these fucking unwanted people cleaned up and out of sight. Get them out of here. We don't care where you put them. Get them off of the streets where the good folks can see them. This is a ploy. This is an advanced tactic to rid the streets, to rid Los Angeles' streets in particular, maybe San Fran too. And I know with the FIFA World Cup coming to this hemisphere, I'm sure that's playing a part in all of these very cruel and intentional laws to target unhoused folks. So the point is, kids, like, we can speculate about Trump's 2025, Project 2025 America. We can speculate on what horrors a Trump 2.0 administration could unleash upon us. We don't have to wonder what the shit looks like under Democrats, because we're seeing it right now. So if the Democrats are basically telling us, if you think that our policies are bad, wait till you get a load of Trump. Again, that is not a ringing endorsement. That is not the rousing hook to bring me in to vote for you. Like the Democrats, their phrase, we're making things shitty, but it's going to get shittier. No, absolutely not. No, 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 no. So y'all continue to remind all of the liberal Democrats in your life, of which I know some of y'all have some, we all do, that the Democrats are not shit. Kamala's not shit. Gavin Newsom not shit. Joe Biden not shit. We take a quick pause because I'm about to run through this here and turn the folks them loose. After I got one more story, guys. Everybody survives in this story too, so it's a good story. Will, do we have any shout outs that we can acknowledge?
Not at the moment. I was trying to look for Afraid Not to, and it's like somebody else with her name or with their name. And yeah, so I was trying to add them as a mod just now as well. No shout outs, just Offset, Reed, who hosted the panel that I was on last week, which was great. Shout out to People's Party, shout out to Sister Shireen and Roger, and I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot the last panelist's name, but they were great as well. But yeah, she said happy birthday.